Hi, and welcome back to Kingdom Wealth Creators. If you are here for the first time, remember to subscribe to this channel and do like this video and watch it till the end. I hope this is something that will really help you. I'm going to talk about the mistakes that I've made in April. These are things that I'm learning from and that I want to apply going into the coming months. But I hope this will teach you something that will help you in your trading life in the stock market. All right, so basically, April was a really tough month. We all know that the coronavirus cases in India just shot up during this month, and the market was also feeling its effect. We actually went down to 14,200 at one point, and then in the last week of April, we recovered, right, a bit, and we ended up almost at 15,000. So this has been the story for April. It has been a really tough month, and for the first time in 9 months of trading FNO, KWC saw a loss for the first time, and of course, we also underperformed compared to the market. So let me talk through what went wrong, how it went wrong, and what are the lessons that we've learned going into the next month. Okay, so in April, this is what our position looks like. We saw a return of a loss of 1.83 lakhs or 1.2 percent points. We had done a total of 12 trades and we only got five right, okay, because it was such a tough month and a win percentage of 40%. Now, what went wrong? Basically, I closed most of my positions in the third week of April or the third and fourth week trading weeks of April, simply because the market had reached 14,200. There was a probability that it actually went down to 14,002. So there was a probability that it would break 14,000 and go down further. And that was a risk that I didn't want to take. My number one rule is to conserve my capital, and that is something that thought important, that even if I make a loss in April, it is fine, because if I have the capital, I can continue into the next months. And that was my thought. I don't regret that decision even today, simply because I knew at that point in time, based on the information and the knowledge that we had, that that was a good decision. Nobody saw or predicted that the market would turn back from 14,000, 14,000 all the way back to 15,000 in just a few four trading days. And so that was something that I had to make a decision on, and I took that decision. But there were mistakes made, and those were the things that I want to talk about. Number one, if you look at these positions, you will notice that the biggest loss was made in Wipro, right? And that was 1.65 lakhs loss. But here's the thing, in Wipro, what happened was the day before Wipro's results came out, I was sitting on a profit of about 50,000 rupees overall for Wipro. And I thought quite a few times that I should close the position, simply because Wipro or any results, when they come out, they could go, in any direction. And in case it goes in a particular direction, say 10%, then I would be at risk. And that's exactly what Wipro did. On the day the results came out, it shot up from 420 to almost 460 in 10% in just one day, and then it continued. Eventually, Wipro closed at 490. And so this position that I had was in a huge danger. If you look at this position, you will notice that a couple of things. One is this 460 CE and this 450 CE. Both of them together saw a loss of almost 4.25 lakh. Okay, and that's the struggle that I had. I had to close them early, simply because I knew that if I kept holding them, it would have been a bigger risk. In fact, if you notice, Wipro closed at 490 something at the end of the month. I would have made a bigger loss on these two positions if I held on. Now, the challenge with Wipro was that it was like a black swan event of 10% being moved in one day. And that's something that we didn't know. But of course, results were coming out. There was a probability that could have happened. And knowing that, I should have exited this position on the day before the results, but all right, that's point number one. Point number two, my Wipro position was at one point almost 45 lakhs. Now, my total capital is 1.5 lakhs, and one single stock was holding 30% of my total capital. And that was breaking my second rule, which was not to have a position or a certain single stock holding more than 10 to 20% of my total capital. I broke that rule in April. Uh, Not only that, the other challenge here was that there were a couple of other positions. If you look at Power Grid, this entire position, even though Power Grid gave me a profit of almost 1 lakh, this position itself was actually costing me nearly 20, 25 lakhs. But with, again, more than that 10, 15% margin that I should be keeping for any single stock. So that was the second challenge there. Uh, if you look at my actual positions, I've taken 12 positions, but HDFC, ITC, and Reliance were small positions. I didn't have to hold. Those were not positions that were big. But it broke another rule, which is called diversification. Normally, if you've seen reviewed past months of my performance, you'll notice that I normally take about 15 to 20 positions to diversify the risk, to reduce the risk by diversifying among sectors and among companies. But that rule got broken here in April, where eventually my effective positions were only nine positions. And that broke rule number three, where I reduced my diversification risk. Oh, sorry, I maximized my risk by not diversifying properly. Okay, so these were the challenges that I had. Obviously, okay, April was an exceptional month where we didn't know where the market was going to go. It could have gone down even worse. And that is a truth that the coronavirus cases were, going through the roof and we didn't know what was going to happen. And so at that time, that decision that I took, I had to close these positions. Now, here's the funny part. What do you think this position would have been if I had held on to the end of the month? Let me show you. If I had held on to these exact positions, not the ones that I closed very early, but the positions that I had closed because I knew the market was at risk. If I had held on to those, my return for April would have been an astonishing 12 lakhs of profit or a return of 8%, again outperforming the market. But because I closed it, this is what has happened. Now, that's another lesson learned. Trust your positions and wait till expiry as much as you can. There might be situations where, like Wipro, you had to close those CEs simply because it had gone out of control. But trust me, I closed ACC at a loss. I closed Coal India at a very small profit. I closed RAC at a very small profit. I closed Zeal at a loss. I closed Aisha Motors at a loss. I closed Dr. Reddy's quite early. And none of these positions were, in actual danger because I could have still continued to manage them properly. But because of the huge market risk, because of the coronavirus, I closed them down all early, but if I had held on to my positions, I would have seen a return of 12 lakhs. So that's another lesson that I'm taking forward into the next month. So mistakes that were made. One, I didn't have enough diversification. Two, I took a lot of heavy weight in certain stocks way beyond my ability. My position sizing was wrong. Wipro was 30% of my total capital, which is something that I should never do. So ideally, it should be somewhere around 10%. Okay, ideally, not more than that, but somewhere in that 10% mark for each position is a good strategy. I did not manage my position sizing well. Thirdly, the third mistake I made, I didn't trust my positions or my strategy and I closed early. Now, that is not a huge mistake because if the market had gone down even further, the loss would have been even greater. In fact, at one point, I had seen a loss of almost 8 lakhs. Of course, I didn't book that loss, but at one point in time, there was a positional loss of 8 lakhs in April. And from there to come back and close at 2 lakhs was good, commendable, not so bad. But I lost out on a potential total profit of 12 lakhs because I closed early. So these are the things that I've learned in April that I'm going to apply properly in May and going forward. I've already applied this in May to reduce my risk and I'm doing quite well because of that. But I hope that you have learned from my mistakes as well. Please understand the market It's always risky. There's no, you can only try to reduce your risk. You can't avoid risk completely. And at sometimes you have to take these tough decisions. And at no point did I ever think I should violate rule number one, which is to conserve my capital and save it and make sure that I'm able to put it into investing the coming month. And so I'm so glad that I took this decision. I don't have regrets. At that point, when I took the decision, it was the right decision. But later on, the next week, the market shot up, and that's something that we couldn't control. But thank you for listening and watching. I've been trying to be very honest here. I know that a lot of investors or traders or big people who make YouTube videos about the stock market are not very forthcoming with their with their mistakes. Okay, they wouldn't say that these were the mistakes I made last month or this week or today. But I hope you learned from this, and I hope that this helps you. Thank you so much.